I enjoyed very much working at Ackworth School. I think the first thing I noticed that it's less febrile than many schools, that it seems, the day seems a long day, that one has time in the morning to go to, first of all, the meeting, and where we're quiet, and we've got time to get to first lesson, that there's a very civilised long break in the morning, and generally I think this helps everybody. I'm not saying a relaxed atmosphere exactly, but it's certainly not.
When I came, we were still sleeping in the same dormitories as they had had in the very early days. The food was pretty basic, and the education had moved forward, but was still nothing comparable to today. During the 1960s, we had a change of headmaster, and I think that saw the end of the old traditional public school, boarding school type of establishment, where there was prefects, there was strict discipline, there was a very strict regime. Everybody got up at a set time, they went to lessons, they had their meals, and they went to bed, all part of a very strict community.
When I came to Ackworth at first, practically all the pupils were boarders. Perhaps with the exception of a few local pupils and some staff children. And so everybody lived in school, including the vast majority of the staff, and if they didn't live in the school, they lived locally, very near to the school. And one thing I certainly noticed as somebody who no longer lives in school is coming to school in the mornings is quite a traumatic experience, actually just finding your way in with all the traffic. Back in those days it was blissfully quiet. The structure of the school week was rather different as well, in that we had lessons on Saturday mornings up till 1 o'clock. The compensation for that was that everybody had Wednesday afternoon off, which was rather nice, and games fixtures were played then. It gave a chance for the boarders to have some free time. The older boarders were allowed to go into Pontefract and so on.
Those things changed from the 1960s, and the whole atmosphere became much more relaxed, and progress was made towards the school that we have today, with, I think, a far more relaxed atmosphere, perhaps less discipline, perhaps more understanding of the individual's needs, and all in all, we've moved with the times, and we now have a school which is very different. Going back to my actual time here at school, it was just after the co-education had been introduced. That was a couple of years before I started at Ackworth, and up to that time the boys and the girls had been educated in separate parts of the school, the East Wing and the West Wing, and that is why to this day the two dining rooms are called Boys' Dining Room and Girls' Dining Room.
Another thing that I've noticed, that pupils seem to have a conscience within the school, and I've been quite touched that sometimes if a class has been a bit silly or difficult, that often individuals will come and talk to me afterwards, or even, during the lesson, that they will say, "Oh, I'm sorry, a little bit silly," that they're aware of this, and that people seem to think about how they behave and to worry about it, and definitely to know right from wrong. And it seems that the pupils and the teachers work very well together, that there's a kind of camaraderie.
The lessons we had were, I think, very much the same as they are today. We started at 9 o'clock, we had a break at about 11, we had a lunch break, and then in winter we had the free time after lunch, and lessons started again at 4 o'clock until 6. This meant that the time you had outside was when it was daylight and at the warmest. Again, we had prep in the evening, and we went to bed reasonably early. I think lights out for the sixth form would be no later than 10 o'clock, and for the first years it was 8 o'clock. as I said, things hadn't changed very much from the old days, but from 1963, when I left school, to the present day, Ackworth has seen tremendous changes.
I certainly have enjoyed Ackworth. I think that there is a special atmosphere. I think it is different, and I think that the Quaker ethos is quite palpable within the school.